Hey, what's up guys? Hardleg Joe here with the profile for my Adamatia Slot Machine, a deck of radical random rocks that can make completely unfair boards with multiple negates and disruption, if you're lucky. If you want to see this thing in action, check out the main What a Deck video, link down in the description. There I'll be playing 10 duels against random opponents on YGOPro, showing off how this deck works. Otherwise here, I'm just going to be going card by card, explaining what everything does and how it do. Starting off with our monster lineup, we have 3 each of Gigantor, Solemn Warning on legs, Solemn Strike on legs, the level 4 Tuner, Blueberry, Cherry, and Lime flavored Rock Candy, 1 Treeborn Stone, 3 of the level 2 Tuner, Only Monica, and 3 of the level 2 Tuner, But Cute. Our only spell is 3 Monster Reborn for rocks, and our only traps are 3 Icarus Attack for rocks, and Solemn Warning without legs. Our extra deck consists of 2 Gallant Granite and a Crystal Wing Synchro, a Big Blue Dragon, and a Psy-Frame Asshole, Mr. No Traps and his brother No Spells, plus a guy named Harold in his car as well. A green Rocky Bird and a red Rock Cat, Appaloosa Unicorn and Halkafi Brax. The last card is Masquerena, she's lit. The side deck I'll go over in a bit. As for how to play the deck, it's unfortunately a bit too complicated to say entirely in rhyme. Actually, this is one of the more complicated decks to explain in general, because there's no clear combo lines you can go into. The archetype is based around an inherently random mechanic, so you just have to kinda activate stuff and do the best with whatever you get. That being said, at its heart, this is a synchro spam deck, so the best place to start is with the tuners. You have 3 of them, a level 2 girl, a level 2 guy, and this level 4 desk jockey of indeterminate gender. I'm not going to be using their names in this profile because at the time of recording we still don't have official English localization for these. So just remember, girl, guy, desk. Got it? Good. Anyway, each of these has 2 abilities. First, they can special summon themselves from your hand under certain conditions. The desk comes out if only your opponent controls a monster, basically a cyber dragon. The guy can be summoned if you control a card from his archetype, and the girl comes out if you control a rock monster. Every monster in the main deck is a rock, by the way, which makes this one particularly easy to summon. Their second effect is where the randomness comes in. They all share an ignition effect that says you can excavate the top 5 cards of your deck, and if you find a level 4 or lower rock monster that isn't a tuner, you can special summon it. Then put the rest of the cards you excavated on the bottom of your deck. This effect is pretty sweet when it works, but unfortunately there's no real way to escape the randomness involved. These colored rock candies are essentially bricks in hand, as arguably these are as well, but you have to play a lot of them if you want to ensure that you'll excavate at least 1. You can reduce the ratios of these to try to make your hands better, but that just means that you'll whiff on the tuner effects more often, which you really don't want to do. All these effects are hard once per turns, but just to show you how powerful they can be, let's assume you open with all 3 of them. Normal summon desk, and then since you have a rock monster in the archetype on board, you can special summon both the boy and the girl as well. Each of them can excavate, and assuming they find a non-tuner, you can special summon 3 monsters from the deck for free. That's a lot of material, and it's not restricted in any way. The monsters summoned keep their effects, and you can use them for links, ixies, or synchros. And they've got some pretty damn good synchros. 2 of them are level 6, so you know, the boy or the girl with any level 4 will make either of these 2. The green bird can excavate 5 from the top of your deck, and special summon any 1 rock monster you find in defense position. This includes the tuners, which can let you extend even further. The red synchro, meanwhile, can excavate 5 and add any Adamatia card to your hand. This can potentially get you the boy or the girl if you don't already have them, or it can get you your archetypal spell traps. The trap is pretty good removal. It lets you tribute any number of in-archetype monsters to destroy that many cards plus 1, meaning any spare rock candies or tuners you leave on the field become double destruction. As for the spell, it's essentially a non-once-per-turn Monster Reborn for rocks. So you can bring back your level 2 tuners, use them with the level 6s you just made, to make big boys like Crystal Wing, Omega, or the final in-archetype boss monster, Blue Dragon. Once per turn, this thing can excavate 5, and for every rock you find, you can return a card your opponent controls to the hand. This does not target, so if you get lucky, you can potentially wipe an entire board with this effect and attack for a lot of damage. If that wasn't good enough, all the Adamatia synchros also have second effects that become live if a specific attribute monster is in the graveyard. The green needs wind, the red needs fire, and the blue needs water, which correspond to this archetype's non-tuner rock candies. Hopefully you can kind of see the color theme going on here. These things, in addition to turning on your synchro quick effects, have some mildly neat effects of their own. First, they all share a graveyard effect that lets them recycle their matching synchro. They shuffle them back from the field or graveyard at the cost of putting themselves back on top of the deck. This can lead to some shitty top decks if you activate these at the wrong time, but if you do it right, then you can ensure that your tunas never miss. Additionally, they all have an effect that activates when they're summoned by a card in their archetype, either the tuners or the spell. Blue draws a card, nice, while red and green let you put a card from your hand or graveyard on top of your deck. For green, that card can be any rock monster, while for red, it's any Adamatia card. I barely use these effects, but they can be useful for getting the candies out of your hand, or for recycling the spell traps after you've used them. Anyway, as I was saying before, if you have the matching colored rock candy in the graveyard, the synchros gain quick effects. The bird can banish a card from your opponent's graveyard during their turn, the lion thing can summon a rock from your graveyard during the opponent's turn, and the dragon can negate a spell trap during either player's turn. These three are your main go-first disruption plays. Blue and green are pretty obvious in how they're used, but red I mostly use in conjunction with the Koa'ki Meirus. If you're unfamiliar with these stone-cold dudes, they're both 1900 attack rocks that contribute themselves during either player's turn to negate and destroy something. Overload negates summons, including normal summons, while Guardian negates monster effects. Since these are level 4 rocks, you can summon them with any of your tuners, and depending on what candies you already have in your graveyard, you can either just leave them on field as disruption, or use them as synchro material and then summon them back with Red Lion during your opponent's standby phase. It's also worth noting that there are 2 more cards in this archetype with similar effects that can negate spells and traps respectively. I play the Spell Negator Wall at 3 in the side deck. It's great if you're going against something that relies on spells like Sky Striker or Dark Magician. The trap one, meanwhile, I don't really bother with since trap-based decks are pretty rare in this day and age, and we can make Barkion pretty easily, which effectively has infinite trap negates. Depending on the meta though, you may want to consider the other Koa'ki Meiru for the side deck, whatever its name is. While I'm looking at the extra deck, Gallant Granite is a key card in this deck. It can be made with any 2 level 4 monsters, and it can detach to search a rock. Generally, if the only tuner you open with is Desk and you find a level 4 with its effect, you'll want to make this rather than just ending on a single level 8 synchro, because this can potentially extend your plays exponentially. Granite can search the girl tuner, who can then special summon herself because you control a rock monster. From there you can make Green Bird, who can hopefully get Tuna Boy, who can then make Red Lion, who can then hopefully get one of your spell traps, and either end on a double pop or an extra summon that you could turn into Crystal Wing or something. I don't know, it all depends on your luck of the draw, whatever you happen to get off the top and whatever you have in the graveyard. The only other big combo worth mentioning is with Halka Febrax. This can be made with any 2 monsters, including a tuner, and it summons a tuner out of the deck when it's summoned, though that monster can't activate its effects. It's not quite as good as Gallant Granite, but in certain cases you kinda have to make it. In addition to giving you access to all YGOPro tuners, this thing can also, during the opponent's turn, banish itself to summon a synchro tuner from your extra deck. This is why we play Formula Synchron. Sometimes you'll only be able to make 1 level 6 Synchro and Hulk, and in that case you can use Hal to summon Formula Synchron, who will not only draw you an additional card for the next turn, but can also Synchro summon during the opponent's turn to make Crystal Wing. Or whatever you have the levels to make, really. All the other links in here are just emergency options, not key to the deck, but good in certain situations. Like sometimes you'll have a couple extra monsters you can't use for anything else, so you can make IP Masquerena. That way, after your once per turn negates are spent, you can turn those monsters into a Nightmare Unicorn or an Appaloosa. Moving back to the main deck, our only remaining key card is Doki Doki Panic. This is a level 2 rock that lets you discard a rock to summon a rock from the deck that has the same level and attribute as whatever you discarded. You can summon this off of one of your tuners to help get the candies out of your hand while putting an additional 2 levels on the field, lets you make your level 8 synchros more easily. If need be, you can use this with Desk to make one of your level 6 synchros, or with Boy/Girl in order to make Herald of the Arclight, another card that contributes itself to negate stuff. In a pinch, Literature Club can also be used to get your plays started. Since Desk is a level 4 Earth Rock, you can discard any of your Koa'ki Meirus or Gigantes to summon this out of the deck, which can sometimes be essential when you open with Doki and no tuners. All that leaves then is our tech cards, which you can replace at your leisure or swap out in the side deck. I just mentioned Giganto. This is a level 4 rock you could special summon by banishing an earth monster in your graveyard. Not only is it great material and a decent attacker when going for game, but if it's destroyed by battle, it destroys all spell traps on the field, which can be a good emergency option if your opponent locks you down with floodgates like Skill Drain or There Can Be Only One. We also have a one-of Sentry Soldier of Stone. It's a level 3, so it allows you to make Naturia Beast with your level 2 tuners. In addition, if all you control is rocks, you could special summon this out of the graveyard once per turn. Lets you put additional material if you happen to get it with one of your tuner effects. Finally, we're just playing Solemn Strike because this is a go-first, negate-heavy deck, and I figured why not lean even more into that with even more negates? If you're going second, obviously this is the first thing you'll want to replace with stuff in the side deck. I'd recommend Twin Twisters in most cases, since spell traps seem to be rising in popularity. This will help you destroy them or bait out negates, and the discard can sometimes benefit you. If your opponent doesn't play many spell traps though, there are plenty of other go second options that will work. Pankratops, Kaijus, Raigeki Dark Hole, evenly matched. All of these are decent options. I didn't play them here because I had a bunch of other potential cards that I wanted to discuss. Probably the main card everyone's wondering about is Block Dragon. This thing is great in just about every Earth-based deck, and Adamatia is no exception. The only reason I left it out is because I try to make my decks immune to the ban list, and I'm predicting that this thing is a prime target for future banning in Master Rule 420. If Adamatia are released in the TCG and this thing is still legal, then by all means play it. And then come back to this video and tell me how wrong I was in the comments. If you do play it though, you'll probably also want to play Union Carrier, since this can essentially pull any monster out of the deck and send it to the graveyard. This thing works amazingly well with Block Dragon, as well as Sentry Soldier of Stone, though I personally preferred having a second Gallant Granite. Moving on, Fossil Dyna can be really effective in here. It's a level 4 rock, so you can special summon it off of the tuners, and while it's on the field, neither player can special summon. This can be super strong against meta decks in the same way that Shaddoll players are just sitting on Winda, but Floodgates are really boring to watch on What a Deck, so I decided to skip out on playing it. Likewise, that's why I skipped out on the Utopia double package. It's really easy to get 2 level 4s in this deck and OTK with this, probably a really good option, but I figured people watching the show would rather see Adamatia at work rather than another deck that does the Utopia double OTK. Finally, there's just 3 cards that work in this deck pretty well. I just personally didn't like them. Pot of Desires is solid draw power since pretty much everything is at 3, and you're probably good as long as you don't banish all your tuners. The Adamatia have a field spell. It gives a decent attack boost and lets you stack cards on top of your deck so your tuners don't miss. Might be worth playing if you decide to go with a less monster-heavy variant. I didn't really find it necessary because I think I've only missed with this effect like twice. And rounding out the trio is the Archetypal Counter Trap, which negates any monster effect while you control an Adamatia synchro. I originally played this at 3, and it works well enough, but I ended up replacing it with Solemn Strike, which essentially does the same thing, just slightly better. That being said, this is kind of searchable though. You can stack it with the field spell, add it to your hand with Red Lion, even recycle it with Red Rock. So yeah, I could potentially see you running it in 1 or 2 in a different build. Could work. Regardless, there's the deck. I hope you liked it. Like the video if you did like it. Comment if there's any changes you would make. And subscribe if you want more strange deck profiles in general. I do one of these every other week. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, good luck and have fun.